From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Corey Clubb, the podcast you're looking for. This is, yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Corey Clubb.
Hello, this is Dan Z, and welcome to show number 41 of Coffee with Kenobi, a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Corey Clubb.
Hello, everybody. Please welcome Geek Chick to the Coffee with Kenobi family as her premiere blog hit the web on July 29th to great acclaim. Be sure to check it out and let her know your thoughts. A huge thank you to Mediocre Jedi, Mike Audette, Neil Lowry, Dennis Keithley, Matt Moore, Lillian Torres, and Eric Scrotch for their contributions to the Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. We really appreciate it. The winner of the first coffee chat is Dennis Keithley. We'll be contacting you shortly with all the details. Congratulations. With summer winding down and fall approaching, Coffee with Kenobi will be bringing you the latest discussion and analysis of Star Wars as we get closer to December 18th and The Force Awakens. In
today's show, Full of Sith joins us for part 2 of our epic annual summer crossover event. We hope you caught part 1 of our conversation with the Mike pilot, Bryan Young, and Bobby Roberts on episode 126 of Full of Sith. Our friends join us for a cup of coffee as we discuss our topic for show number 41, the current state of Star Wars canon.
We also discuss Force Friday details, Simon Kingberg talking about creating the future of Star Wars, Dan and myself appearing in Star Wars Insider. We discuss our new sponsor, Topps Digital, and look at Han Solo as a, wait for it, refrigerator. We also have your next Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio featuring Rob Wainfer, and introduce our topic for show number 42.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
Our first news story talks about Force Friday and the details that we have, and we still don't have a lot as far as specific merchandise. All we know is that, Corey, on September 4th, which is Force Friday, it's going to get pretty crazy, my friend.
It is, and they just kind of announced that Toys R Us stores will be opening across the nation at 12:01 a.m. That's in the midnight hour.
Yes, it is.
For folks to jump on these giveaways and stuff. Getting access to these brand new toys. Yeah, brand new toy lines from The Force Awakens is pretty big deal.
It's great. I mean, the press release that Toys R Us sent us talks about there's a huge countdown. I don't know if you've been to Toys R Us recently, but they have these little digital countdown clocks. Almost looks like a doomsday clock, actually. But it's not doomsday. It's a great day.
Like a great day.
It's a
clock.
beautiful thing, yeah. And it just tells you how much time until we get to see all the new Star Wars Force Awakens toys. And so before we start taping this, I asked you your thoughts on it because I just assumed, well, we're totally going to go and make a big deal about this and record some segments and all that kind of stuff. And what do you think? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's coming.
More cowbell?
Yeah, more cowbell. Yeah, it's great. I think there's a certain thing that goes into collecting. That's money. That obviously brings a big group of things into deciding what you want to get. Making your collection, picking what you want to get. You obviously can't get everything. Yeah. And with this is going to be a lot of unique items. Of course, awakening, if you will. Haha.
Oh, yes.
A new collection.
New Dawn.
Man, we're all over the place, aren't we? This kind of opens up the floodgates, if you will. We kind of saw us around the prequels as well, as the collecting side of things. Star Wars has always been big for this, but coming with that, it comes a big pocketbook, and I, for one, don't have a big pocketbook to be able to just start throwing stuff out and get what I want. I'd love to, but you made the mention, you could bring $10 and find something.
Buy one
a
figure,
bag of
buy
candy or something. Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much great stuff out there now with Rebels and all kinds of different merchandising goes along with these upcoming events and these upcoming new series and stuff. So with this, I'm excited to see what's out there. I'm sure there'll be tons of stuff I'm going to want to pick up. So I'll be able to start saving my pennies and break open that penny bank when it's time to go.
It's like a month away, so save $5 a week.
Yeah, literally a month away from today it was recording. Yeah, so
exactly. And there's all kinds of cool promos. Be sure to check out the link in our show notes for the press release. They're doing some neat things, though, of course. In the United States, it's September 4th at 12:01 a.m. So for those of you who get confused by that, and I count myself among those people, it doesn't mean Thursday morning. It means like if you go to bed Thursday night and wake up Friday, it's Friday. So Friday at midnight. Am I confusing us even more now?
Yeah, I'm confused. So I think you're.
Monday, Tuesday,
here's what it is. It's Thursday. Thursday in the evening hour. Yeah. When it rolls over to midnight, which is actually 12 in the morning, Friday. I believe they'll be open.
It's like Happy New Year.
It's like Star Wars Happy New Year. Like yes, the Ewok Village
on Thursday night. When you normally go to bed and wake up Friday, this time Thursday night you don't go to bed. You drive to Toys R Us, and it's Friday.
It's mayhem,
and it's crazy. And we've managed to confuse everyone listening, including ourselves. So hopefully we'll see you there. At Times Square, they're doing something really exciting. They're having a party, and Steve Sansweet's going to be there, and he's going to have a display. A lot of cool collectibles from the original 6 films, including the first 4 mail-away action figures from 1978, a large-sized Chewbacca never publicly released from The Empire Strikes Back, a rare 2003 Lego Star Wars Cloud City building set. It's going to be pretty remarkable. So if you're in the New York area, gosh, that would be awesome. Be sure to check it out. Yeah. And if you want to record something and send it our way, we'd be happy to put it on the show because it sounds like it's going to be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, Steve is always a good catch to shake his hand and get to see him. It sounds like he's going to be all over the place. This is probably one of his big days in Star Wars history for him, being the collector he is.
Well, yeah, and like he told us before, he's pretty happy because now all these great things are coming out that he gets to experience with us. But since he's not currently officially working with Lucasfilm, he gets to be surprised like all of us. So
right. Yeah,
there's probably not anyone as excited as him, and that's awesome. I mean, although I think you and I are pretty pumped too. There's again in the show notes, they've got some great images that were provided to us from Toys R Us of different things that are going to be featured. So it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be exciting. Let us know if you're planning on going to Force Friday. I'm sure as we get closer and we get an idea of what some of the merchandise is going to be, we can start making our shopping lists. And
exactly.
And I'm glad you said what you did, because whether you have $5 or $50 or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just go for the experience.
Right.
Buy a figure, don't buy a figure, talk to people. Just looking at these images are beautiful, and it's going to be very, very exciting. And I'm babbling now because I'm already in the mindset of it being Friday.
You're foaming at the mouth, and that's understandable.
Well, I still have to work the next day.
Well, here's the other thing too: is
that's Memorial Day weekend, by the way, right?
Yeah. Is it Memorial? It might be. Actually, it might be. So, along with it being Memorial Day weekend, folks can also jump into Chuck Wendig's new book, Star Wars Aftermath, which debuts on that same day. So a huge day for Star Wars fans jumping into The Force Awakens, which is going to be all new to everybody. And this is quite the release as far as all these toys and exclusives and just the events going on. This is going to really give us a good look at what we have coming our way in December.
Well, and like you said too, it reminds me of Episode 1, and I think we talked about this on previous shows. The whole just getting excited. I remember specifically going for episode 1 and episode 3 early for the big toy release, and it was just so exciting, and enjoy this incredible time that we are all enjoying as The Force Awakens comes closer and closer.
Our next news story has to do with kind of the brain trust behind the next upcoming Star Wars films, and kind of centers around their conversation with Simon Kinberg. He kind of talked about some of the folks that are involved with some of the coming writers of the movies of the upcoming films we kind of talked about a couple shows ago. Michael Arndt was also involved with writing some of the screenplay for Force Awakens, as well as Lawrence Kasdan. And he spoke a little bit how they kind of spent the time together and kind of talked about the script writing on Skywalker Ranch, and how fun would that be to be on a fly on that wall? I mean, what a
collaborative zeitgeist of awesome.
It would be, and to talk the next generation of films. I mean, not just Episode 7, but 8 and 9 and so on.
Well, it's pretty spectacular when you're thinking about it. You're sitting in this room in Skywalker Ranch, which just sounds amazing in itself, right?
Right.
Just as he's got this whiteboard with pens, and everybody's in the conference room all day talking about these little sticky notes everywhere, and notes and arrows going all over the place. And then he said they would go back to the inn at Skywalker and have dinner and drinks, and they would talk to Lawrence Kasdan, and he would tell them stories about riding Raiders and Empire, and wow, like you said, a fly on the wall.
Well, the other thing too is like just to brainstorm, or just to pick an idea and just sit on it and just have a dialogue about beloved characters, beloved events, and then new characters too. Just to be in that room and be able to work on such a iconic film series.
Yes.
I mean, obviously these guys are, they've been doing this for a while too. They're no newbies to the writing for film. I know Kinberg has done the Days of the Future Past film, and the most recent. Yeah, the X-Men. I think he did the previous one, First Class.
That I borrowed from you.
Ah, there you go. He also did the most recent Fantastic Four reboot.
Yes.
So
we won't hold that against him. I don't know why.
I haven't seen it yet.
No one has it. At least I haven't. It doesn't come out in theaters until this week.
We can't see the future.
How can I be skeptical? It's not like it's a sequel to Pacific Rim.
Which we're all looking forward to.
Yeah.
Anyway, Simon Kinberg also wrote a few things for Rebels. I know he's deep into kind of the Star Wars mythos.
Yeah,
so he's got that behind him.
He's got a big role. Sorry to interrupt you there. He's got a huge role. I think it's bigger than people realize, and I think in Celebration it kind of came to fruition how much of an overarching reach he has on Star Wars properties. He's not just someone who's one of the leaders for the series Rebels, but knowing that he contributed to episodes 7, 8, and 9, it's pretty cool. And seeing him live and being at that press conference and being, 10 feet away from him, if that, was pretty cool. But I got to be honest, those X-Men, like, I love Days of Future Past, but the one before that you just mentioned, the name is escaping me.
First Class?
Yeah, I didn't really love that. It was okay.
Well, it was still a leaping off point. They're looking to put together, an entourage of different characters into a film series. And even the first one, back when Bryan Singer did it, it's hard to put an ensemble cast like that together.
It is.
And especially with a franchise as big as it is, you just can't fit in 2 hours.
By the way, that movie, the very first X-Men, this is not an X-Men podcast, but I watched it recently with my older boys. It does not really hold up to the test of time.
Honestly, that film is not the greatest. It really isn't. But it introduces us to...
But when you saw it,
new characters. I remember it was, because I was a huge fan. It was back in 2000 or so.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was salivating for a film like this. And nowadays, it seems like we get these films every other month, superhero films. So it's like, it's another Wolverine film. Oh, look, a Deadpool film. Oh, look, there's another Bond film. So it's like... nowadays, we're like, it's no big deal. It's another superhero film. But back then, it was more like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe we're making this, because we were so appetite hungry for these new characters to leap to film. And that's kind of how we feel about Star Wars now. It's like, here we are, 30 years difference of time period of to be able to see these characters again on screen. And here we're ready for it. We're excited. And, I couldn't really... I can't really name off a lot of screenwriters that I know that are off the tip of my head there as far as making, writing a Star Wars film, but Lawrence Kasdan is a legend. And of course, it's great to see him on the staff there.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's like the total Star Wars no-brainer of all time, isn't it? Because he's going to have a big impact. He's one of the people who's leading the charge for the Han Solo anthology film. But I guess the main thing here is to see that Kinberg really is an important piece to the Star Wars Disney puzzle, so we'll keep an eye on him. Our next news story is my next article for Insider 159. This was a lot of fun. This is my second one for the magazine, and it's always a blast to do, and the folks over at Titan are awesome. And this one was particularly fun for me because the topic for this article is midichlorians, which is
it's a hot button topic.
It's a hot button. Would you say polarizing?
It can be polarizing. Sure, we'll give it that.
That's like a word like burgeoning that Craig Dickinson knows what we're talking about.
He's got a tally sheet that's just like tallying
every time I say it or mention it in an article. Yeah, but that's always a topic that's kind of perplexed me, and I've struggled with it. So I thought I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to talk to some Star Wars experts and try to get to the bottom of it. And I talked to Paul McDonald, author of Star Wars Heresies. I talked to Ian Desher, William Shakespeare's Star Wars, of course, good friend of us in the show. Talked to Kyle Newman, who everybody knows, fanboys, and just an overall amazing Star Wars fan and Star Wars personality. And then my favorite Star Wars expert, Corey Clubb.
Yeah,
He's your favorite too?
He's my favorite too, and he's a cool guy. I see him every day. But, the topic as such as midichlorians, you're right, it's a big topic. A lot of people have a lot of good discussions over it, a lot of conversations to be able to analyze and see what they think, because it was such a big kind of opening for the Force and kind of how we get to see the dealings on how things work in episode 1. And it's something we had never really kind of delved into other than just having this mystical feel of energy of sorts from the first 3 films. And this kind of gave it a scientific angle, kind of gave it an ambiguity about it, something you can reach out and touch in a sense.
Probably needs to be a topic for an entire show. Don't you think?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun to get all of you together to talk about it.
That'd be cool. That'd be great.
Maybe we could try to make that happen. It'd be fun. It was fun. It was fun, though, for me to, of course, we email and chat all the time, but for you to share your thoughts with me on these questions and put them all together, and it was good. It's fun to see us, in Insider. I mean, we're Star Wars fans. We're excited. And we also got a nice little shout out at the beginning in Vanessa Marshall's column, where she has a picture of her with Thomas Riddle. And I think we actually took that picture.
I did. I think I was the cameraman behind that.
Yeah, I think you were. And then she gave us a shout out there too. So 2 little plugs for Coffee with Kenobi, which we always appreciate. Anything, that helps get the word out, right?
Absolutely. And again, check out the Insider 159. The whole issue was great. I haven't seen it yet, but you kind of had given me some screenshots of some things that you'd seen. But it's on shelves now, so check it out. I gotta find my copy. I haven't got a chance to track it down.
Right.
I think they're selling out everywhere. So
maybe you can autograph your own magazine.
Yeah,
give it to yourself.
Maybe I give it to myself. He'll love that. Yes.
And now, your Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio.
Hi, Coffee with Kenobi listeners, and welcome to another Espresso Shot with the Bearded Trio, with me, Rob Wingfer. We have a special episode as I report on my time at London Film Comic Con, which took place at the Olympia from July the 17th to July the 19th. While there, I was fortunate enough to report on the event as a member of press, and on the Friday, I attended a press conference where the cast of Back to the Future were assembling. While there, I was told I had a spot reserved to ask one of the cast members a question. So I had to make it Spielberg related. I asked Michael J. Fox what it was like working with 2 directing greats on the set of Back to the Future, Bob Zemeckis and the executive producer, Steven Spielberg. Here's what Michael J. Fox had to say.
Well, Bob is a force of nature. He's an amazing guy, and he's an amazing mind, and he's amazing energy. And the thing with Bob was, we'd be doing a scene, and it wouldn't be working, we couldn't figure out how to do it, and he would just stay there all night. Like, people would go, well, we're going to shut this down, and he figures it out, and we'd say, no, he's going to go all night long until he figures this out. And it could be something as simple as a prop in the wrong place. He's just such a stickler for detail. And I thought Stephen was a perfect mentor for him. I think Stephen never imposed himself on the process, he was just kind of hanging in the background, and I think he had a great relationship with Bob, and we came off successfully.
It was really nice to see the cast together, and in particular Michael J. Fox, who, as you probably know, suffers with Parkinson's disease. Now, you can find out more about Michael J. Fox, his condition, and how you can help via his website, michaeljfox.org, and learn more about his charity, the Michael J. Fox Foundation. Also attending at London Film Comic Con were some of the cast of Gremlins. And again, I was fortunate enough to ask Zach Galligan a question. Now, Zach played Billy in the 1984 classic, which was directed by Joe Dante, and again with Steven Spielberg, once again being the executive producer. With Chris Columbus recently talking about a Gremlins revival, I had to ask Zach about the rumored reboot/remake of Gremlins.
I'll answer the question with a certain caveat, which is it's now been 25 years since Gremlins 2 even came out. And there have been so many rumors, innuendo, and the bottom line is a lot of stuff doesn't really come to fruition, even though it gets announced. But I will say this. I personally feel, for the first time in about 25 years, I feel that actually, and I wouldn't even really call it a reboot, because Chris Columbus did a bunch of interviews in April where, as far as I was concerned, he kind of slipped a little bit, and he kept referring to it as a sequel. And they asked him if it was going to be a remake, to which he said, absolutely not. We're not going to remake the first one, because the first one is very near and dear to my heart, which is true, since it was one of his first scripts and he wrote it, and he thinks it's like, he's very proud of it. So the last thing he wants to do is reboot it. Then he went on to say that he loved the way that J.J. Abrams is approaching stuff like, actually first he mentioned the Star Trek series, right, where he brought Spock back, and then he talked about how he saw Han Solo and Chewbacca in the Star Wars trailer and how he basically got choked up. And so he said that's what he's looking for, the power of nostalgia, and he thinks that J.J. Abrams has really tapped into that brilliantly. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the Han Solo and Chewie of Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2 is. So I don't know. So we'll see what happens. I know they hired a screenwriter, this guy Carl Ellsworth, and he's writing away, and I know that Spielberg still owns the property as attached, and he and Chris Columbus are working together. So I would say I'm more optimistic than I've been since Gremlins 2 was completed, that they'll actually come up with something, and it'll probably be like a combo burrito type thing like they did with Jurassic World, where it's like it takes into account the old films, and it even has people like B.D. Wong back in it, but it also introduces new characters. So I think that Hollywood's realizing now, why do you need to alienate the old audience for the sake of the new audience? Why can't you just put them together and have the best of both worlds? So that's what I think they're doing.
While attending London Film Comic Con, I managed to find time to head over to Baker Street and see what the Star Wars section was like at Madame Tussauds. Now, I have plenty of photos for you to look up, and on my next post for Coffee with Kenobi on the 12th of August, I will be reviewing the section, and I'll put up all the photos I took so you can have a look for yourselves. So keep that on your radar. Just a hint, it was incredible. Well, that wraps up your Espresso Shot special for this edition. Make sure you check out thebeardedtrio.com for all the latest on Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and John Williams. We have plenty of Star Wars content too, including an interview with Obi-Wan himself, James Arnold Taylor. Let me know what you think of the segment, and if you have any news tips, feel free to send them my way. Thanks for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you all.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
Our first item for Collectors News is kind of a big announcement for us. We're excited to announce that Topps Digital is sponsoring us. You probably heard some of the clips kind of featuring them. This is an app, a card trader app that we're excited about. Dan and I both play it. It is a blast, man.
Play it. Yeah.
I think I got caught playing it when my wife was trying to tell me something important. Maybe pick up the kids or pick up some bread or milk or something like that. And I was too busy opening packs to realize that I was being beckoned. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. This is a great app. I couldn't be more excited about Topps giving us a little boost here. Dan, what's your favorite card so far that you've gotten?
That's hard to say because sometimes I used to just try to go for just characters and everything, but there's so many amazing packs to choose from. And I'm not just saying that because they're sponsoring. So we really like this app. Right. I mean, ever since it started, we've been tweeting about it. And at one point, I joked that I would offer up your co-hosting chair to get the Snowspeeder card.
That's right.
From when they had the Haas set early on, probably about a year ago.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. I like this new light side of the Force set. There's a lot of cool ones. It's just fun. The big thing that's so exciting for us, though, is Topps is doing a contest with us. I know they're doing a lot of stuff with a lot of podcasts, which is great. But basically, if you tweet to us at Coffee with Kenobi and at Topps Digital, and again, it's on our Facebook page and Twitter, and it'll be on the show notes, and it'll be on our website. Just search for Topps or for the Star Wars Card Trader app, and you'll find it. But if you tweet to us and Topps Digital with your fan name and your favorite card, you're automatically entered. And dude, tell us about the prizes.
Absolutely. There's 2 winners will win 500,000 credits, in-game credits, and then 2 other winners will win 1 million in-game credits.
1 million in-game credits.
$1 million.
It's
or
amazing.
Not dollars, but
yeah,
credits.
It's not dollars.
Let's talk credits here for real.
It is in-game credits. And those of you who are not familiar with the app, it's time to jump on. You can get it on Google Play. You can get it on iTunes. And when you have these credits, you can buy these packs. And the packs are typically about 5,000. And you get 5 to 7 cards at a time. So you can really add to your collection. Well, it's tremendous fun. Yeah. You can trade. And it's great. And honestly, I mean, we're not eligible. But if you want 1 million credits, and you could get a lot. You could get a lot of stuff.
What's cool is, Dan, about the app is anybody can start a collection. Like,
right.
And new people can jump on and start collecting right away and instantly get credits every day. There's a credit value of 25,000 credits every day, and that kind of amounts to a weekly bonus.
True.
And then, so through those credits, like Dan said, you spend those to get certain packs, and there's different variety, different sets out there. And like I said, we're not just saying this because they sponsor us, because we've been playing this long before this happened.
There's stuff on a lot of our past shows.
Well, there's a lot of past shows. There's comic series, there's art series, there's Stormtrooper series, there's TK series. A lot of these are still available to be able to get out there and check out. The most recent one that I'm enjoying is the Rebels posters pack. Some of the Rebels stuff has been really hot collector items as far as the app goes. But there's so much of a catalog that Star Wars has behind them, and then of course Topps goes in and kind of tweaks them a little bit, makes some updates, little things, and gives us something that we've never seen before as far as Star Wars goes. So it's a lot of fun to really catch up and make friends. And I'm part of a online group on Facebook,
Black Sun Cantina.
Yeah,
same here.
And they've been a lot nice, really, community to be able to help other folks out, newbies. They're looking to get some cards underneath their wings, and it's a good community to talk to people and kind of understand the rules a little bit when new card sets come out. So that's really cool. It's been very helpful to be able to complete some of my sets. So definitely check this app out. I know we're excited about the sponsorship and the contest. Definitely get your tweet out there to join that and get your chance to win 1 million credits.
And we probably should mention this too, since we're talking about this and advertising it. What is your Topps card trader name? What's your fan name?
My fan name is Corey CWK.
And mine is Dan Z CWK. They're both in caps, both all one word. So check it out. Enter the contest, and gosh, we hope it goes to a good home, and I'm sure whoever enters will. And by the way, just to let everybody know, the contest is going on for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's over on Tuesday the let me check the calendar here. Tuesday the 18th, which is the next time we're going to record our next show, actually. And at the time of this recording, we already had over 100 entries. So
yeah, so there's plenty of time to enter and win. And by all means, just enjoy the app, have fun, and trade away.
For our next collector story, Corey, my obsession with Han Solo and Carbonite continues. It doesn't seem to be going away. Think Geek did something interesting. They released a Han Solo Carbonite refrigerator. Now, there's a link in the show notes. When you hear refrigerator, it's actually not a life size. It's probably even smaller than a dorm refrigerator. So if you click on the link, and go ahead and do that if you're not driving, or Corey, if you are recording with me, and you are. Look at those pictures below. Do you see them?
Yeah.
It's small.
It's small, but it holds up to 18 cans of soda. That's pretty large. I mean, that's a whole 12
if you
pack
take out the shelves. But, I mean, the shelves in it, let's be honest, it's not exactly designed to keep a bunch of stuff cool. It's designed because it is cool, like literally cool and figuratively. Did you see what happens when you turn off the light?
Yeah, little red lights light up, kind of give it a little ominous glow.
I can't take it. It's so awesome.
So, does this do it for you? I mean, we've seen like a Han Solo and Carbonite shower curtain. We've seen like
I find that to be creepy.
I've seen it was
you?
Yeah, I've seen it was a tabletop Han Solo Carbonite tabletop.
Yeah, I think that was more like a fan thing. I don't know if that's information.
Okay.
So
I think I've also seen a rug.
Yeah,
a rug. So, how does this rank in that Han Solo and Carbonite classic montage? Is this up there with, maybe a full-size fridge?
I didn't think you were going to say that. They're going to say a full-size Han and Carbonite. I don't know. I think it's amazing. And when I first thought, I was like, wow, this is cool. And then my wife was like, this was actually the last day of school. So Tom, who I work with, and you heard him on our Indiana Comic-Con adventures, he was looking at it too, and we were all laughing. And my friend Caleb, we were all laughing about it because it's tiny and it's $150. But think about this. Imagine the new Coffee with Kenobi studios here at Zaire Central, and I have the Han Solo Carbonite refrigerator next to me and the microphone, and I'm having an engaging conversation with you or with Jeff.
Yes.
And also my throat gets dry. What am I going to do? I got to go to the Carbonite, don't I?
Directly to the Carbonite, yes.
It does say that Tabana gas is not required.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's hard to get. I tried to get some last week, and they are sold out.
It only weighs 9 pounds, too.
Well, it's funny. It's funny because it says let Han keep your food cold or warm.
Yeah, there's a feature where you can make it warm.
Yeah, so that's an odd feature, but I guess for any folks looking to warm up, keep things, it's like sandwich warm or a banana warm. I don't know what
banana.
I don't know what.
What's a banana in a refrigerator?
Maybe there's folks out there that want to put the banana inside the frozen Carbonite refrigerator, but I don't know.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with what you're doing here.
Hey, to each their own.
True. It's gonna be. So I assume you're not gonna put this on your list.
No, I'm gonna pass on this one.
Would it look nice in your office?
Well, it's honestly the price isn't that bad for something like this.
You say the price is right?
Price is right. I think so. Because if you're looking for something kind of a novelty item, like say have in your office or have it in your garage or something like that. Looking for a snack, you pull open the Han and you defrost him and grab something to drink or something. You can have a lot of fun with it. It's a talking piece.
Every time you take the like your water or your soda out of the fridge, do you have to say someone who loves you to the drink?
I don't know about that.
No.
But to each their own again. I mean, if you're looking to do that, this is
it's a Return of the Jedi reference, Corey.
I figured that was a Star Wars reference.
It's a movie.
I've seen it, yes.
Good, you should do a podcast. Anyway, let us know what you think. Hey, it's Dan Z.
And Corey Clubb.
From Coffee with Kenobi. And we are excited to let you know about the Star Wars card trader app from Topps.
Yeah, Dan, you remember those cards that came out in 1977, the good old days? Well, they're back again. Yeah, so it's the Star Wars card trader app. It has them all, as well as fantastic images from The Force Awakens, The Clone Wars, Rebels, and much more.
Absolutely. You've got your favorite characters, memorable scenes, you've got key moments. It's all there. You get credits every day for free from the app, which is available from iTunes or Google Play. Open packs from the Cantina, trade with your friends, and enjoy these amazing Star Wars memories as you take your first step into a larger world.
There's so many different sets to choose from also, and there's so many great cards to chase. There's special inserts, there's rewards for completing sets and variants. It's everything you love in collecting from a galaxy far, far away.
The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 41 is the current state of canon in Star Wars. After almost 2 years of new canonical Star Wars, how is storytelling faring in the Star Wars universe? What stories have been the most rewarding, and what makes a good Star Wars story? Are there any out there that need to be told, and what would be better left ambiguous? Joining us on this topic will be the Full of Sith team of the Mike Pilot, Bryan Young, and Bobby Roberts. We just joined Full of Sith on episode 126 for part 1 of this epic crossover, and they are here to join us for part 2. Welcome to the Full of Sith listeners, and welcome back to our podcasting brothers from Full of Sith.
Hey, thanks for having us on, guys.
You bet. Thanks for being back. This is pretty much a great opportunity for us to talk with our friends here, and we just talked with you guys about some interesting ideas with Anakin and the afterlife, and there are all kinds of great Star Wars stories out there. But after almost 2 years of new canonical Star Wars storytelling, what was your guys' opinion overall about how storytelling is faring in the Star Wars universe?
Bryan, why don't you take this one first?
The state of the union is strong. No, I really like what they're doing right now. I think the comics are picking up. There was some moments in the comics I wasn't sure about. There's been one misfire of the 4 books they've put out. Mm-hmm. And I've really been enjoying Rebels, but even maybe one of those episodes was kind of a misfire. So I think we're looking at a pretty good batting average for what's happened since they switched over to the new canon. It's certainly better than the batting average they had before with the stuff that's Legends, where you could probably bet on a 50-50 mix.
Bobby, what about you? And we're going to time you.
I'm more in tune with both Rebels and the comics. I haven't really read any of the books thus far, and that's partially because, as Bryan just mentioned, reading the books was mostly how I connected with the EU, the Legends EU, and like he said, it was about a 50-50. So after a while, I got sick of sticking my hand over the stove, only to find out that yes, the red coils are bad. So I've been sticking mostly to the comics because I recognize a lot of these creators from previous books that I've liked quite a bit. And like Bryan said, they're doing a really good job keeping these books feeling fresh, even though, yes, there's probably one book that is not working at all the way I wanted it to. I've noticed that with fandom, like everyone has that one book. It's not necessarily the same book, though. But everyone has that one book that is absolutely not working for them the way they want it to. But I do want to point out that perfection is a impossible ideal to attain. I'm not saying you should strive for it, but it's really hard to judge any collection of works by that metric. I'm fine.
Batting average is a really good batting average.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, in baseball, a good batting average is what, like 35% of the time you actually manage to safely make base.
Yeah.
And right now, the new canon they've got a batting average of right around, I want to say 75%. And that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous to know that 3 out of 4 grabs off the shelf are going to reward you significantly. That's fairly decent. So, I mean, a lot of people were very worried about Lucasfilm's new tech, about their new direction. But it seems like in the first 2 years, that worry was mostly unfounded. What do you guys think?
Well, if I could just say real quick, to go with that analogy of a baseball player, Bobby, if you're hitting 750, or you're automatically in the Hall of Fame probably after one season because nobody's been above 420 or whatever it is. But I'm going to kind of mirror what Brian and Bobby had to say, but I'm going to take it in a different direction. I think it's an amazing – at the end of my life, if I could look back and say, when was I happiest that we got a new trilogy for Star Wars, right now would be the time for me because, my child's going on 10 now, so I have a lot of time to focus on Rebels coming out and watching different things on YouTube or reading some of the books, which I don't read a lot of them, some of the comics that I'm reading, more so toys, being able to collect. There's a lot of cool toys coming out, and this time in my life I have a lot more money to spend on said toys than I did when I was, a child, mowing grass to get that, or in my early 20s, spending all my money at the bar getting beers instead of getting stuff. So I think the averages, they're doing a really, really good job. It's the most ideal time for me. I know it's not about me, but personally it is the best time for me, and I'm really happy with how everything is going and all the talk of Force Awakens and all the new toys and like that TIE Fighter. I mean, it's a good time, and I'm really happy.
Yeah, I think for me overall, I'd say 750, probably 800 or so is a better thing as far as how I'm looking at it. I'm loving the books, even the Luke book, which is sort of a generous that it's not a part of the Legends line because it was written before they even made this new doctrine. But I will say I did like Luke finding another lightsaber, that Rhodian lightsaber. I thought that was pretty fun. But the comics are the things that have been sort of hit and miss for me. I really liked the first couple of Star Wars. I'm still not sure if I like Luke and Vader meeting before Empire, even though it seems practical to do. To be honest, I was more concerned with Luke and Vader meeting in Star Wars 2 and 3. I was more concerned with Luke watching Vader slaughter all these innocent people and how that didn't completely traumatize him. And that's pretty serious stuff. I've loved Rebels is about as good as it gets as far as Star Wars storytelling. I hold that up with the movies any day of the week. And the other comics, Canon's been pretty good. They've all been pretty strong. I did not like the Leia series that much. And Vader is, for me, even though I wasn't crazy about number one, it's getting better and better with each issue. Corey, what about you?
Yeah, I've kind of stayed away from the comics because, like Mike said, there's times are tight with money and stuff, so I had to pick and choose what I can and can't do, and certainly want to get into those and pick those up. But I've read some of the books. Rebels is fantastic, I think, so far. That's the top right now, I think. But it's interesting because as far as storytelling goes and these new stories. We look back, we always compare it to what we've seen so far. So how does, Luke gonna fit into meeting Vader through a different time lapse of era before Empire and between A New Hope, and how is that gonna march out in the comics? Because we only know him meeting up in the films and whatnot, and it's almost like, well, that doesn't make sense to me because we can't wrap our minds around it a little bit. So for me, it's hard to transition that. But to see new characters we've seen in Rebels and a brand new a group kind of go about the universe, meeting pockets of characters we've seen before is really nice. It's a nice little transition, and it's a lot of fun. It keeps it light, and I've really enjoyed the novels as well too. It gives backstory to some of the folks that we don't know so well. Tarkin was a great book. I also really enjoyed the latest Dark Disciple, which was really well done by Christy Golden. So and I think it's interesting as we move on, because as we are the older generation, I think, coming into this new canon, these are characters we love so much into the new films and whatnot too. So we're going to hold that in the highest regard, to where, my kids picking some of this stuff up are gonna be like, oh, that's really cool because I just like, I like Chopper and he's really funny, and they'll go on to where it's kind of at their level where they can pick it up easier and enjoy it more so, versus us who kind of dissect it. But, I think we talk about too is what makes a good Star Wars story. Is it, following the heroes on their journey, Luke and Leia and Han, or is it following these new characters? For you guys, what is it that makes a good Star Wars story?
I'll jump in on that one first. Just that it's fun more often than not. Not to say that there haven't been serious Star Wars stories that work, because there are, obviously. But for me, it has to be fun first and foremost. Like, it doesn't even have to be focused on a main character, although if it is focused on a main character, it's a little bit easier to have fun with them because you're already invested. We like to say, Coffee with Kenobi listeners, that Full of Sith is we're the old folks podcast. So we've already been once around the block with the idea of an expanded universe, and that block was about 30 years long. So when this new version of an expanded universe rolls out, that's essentially been rebooted. It's been started over. What I'm most looking forward to when I crack open a new comic is opportunity being realized, because I've seen opportunity get squandered in the Legends universe as well as be realized. And I've seen people go down certain storytelling paths that ended up being a cul-de-sac as opposed to being a long and rewarding journey towards a very rewarding destination. So when I crack open, a Jason Aaron comic, it's, for me, what I'm looking for is fun and the realization of an opportunity, maybe even in a better way than a similar opportunity was tackled, 10, 15, 20 years ago when it was Brian Daly or Ann C. Crispin. Like, those guys are still like sort of peering over my shoulder. And these news, and that's part of the excitement and the fun of cracking open these new books, is to see whether these young kids who grew up on Star Wars the way I did, are going to take this series in a newer, more fun direction than the last expanded universe ended up being. Like, that sort of, it got kind of dirgy near the end there. It got sort of glum and lead-footed at times. And so far, even with stuff like Dark Disciple, from what I'm hearing about it, like, there's no clay-footedness going on. There's no grumpiness, like, being super pervasive throughout the tone of the stories. Like, there's a lot of fun happening. And I think that's why the batting average for me is as high as it is, because keeping that aspect of fun front of mind seems to be happening.
I'll just say this real quick.
No,
I don't have much.
Go ahead, Mike.
Bobby and Brian are far much more polished and eloquent with what they say as opposed to what I do. They're much better at taking movies and dissecting them and know what makes a good movie or what makes a good story. I actually have a lot of respect for those two in that matter. I'm more of just a layman as far as what I watch and what I enjoy. A good example would be, we went to go see Pixels on Wednesday. It's not an Oscar winner. It's not even in the caliber of being an Oscar winner. It's not a great movie, but I had a lot of fun watching it with my daughter and my wife. We had a good time. There was some nostalgia there. So I posted on Facebook that I thought it was a good movie, and I got "for shame" quotes back to me all day via text and on Facebook and all that. So for me, what makes a good story is to be able to go in and not take it overly seriously, not take it as it's going to be the be-all, end-all of all movies, that it's supposed to be Citizen Kane or Gone with the Wind. It's just a story that I go in and I can relate to the message that they're trying to put out there, whether it be good to somebody, be a hero, take care of yourself, be whatever their message is, that I can take a little bit out of it and enjoy it and laugh and then want to go see it again or talk about it with my friends on a podcast, So I don't really I don't really know what makes a good movie. I just know what I'm looking for when I spend my $7.50 at the movie theater, and it's just going in and having a good time and making memories.
For me, the thing that I really love about what they're doing now, and I've talked about this a little bit before, is that now, when most of the Legends universe came out, there wasn't any consistency between what was going to come out in movie form that George Lucas could overwrite and what had come before. And so harmonizing those things was incredibly difficult. Now we have the prequels out, we have Clone Wars in its entirety, and we have a story group shepherding all of that mythology in a way that George Lucas really never did. I mean, he kind of came in and made pronouncements about how things were, but it could have contradicted other stuff before it, and now you've got them harmonizing that in a way that we've never had before. And what it's doing is giving us stories that blend the best of the prequels and the classic trilogy together, and it's really uniting fans. It's making fans of the prequel trilogy. It's bringing them to the classic trilogy. It's taking fans of the classic trilogy who might not have had any respect or enough respect for the prequels and showing them at least the things about the prequels that are really awesome. Like, I think the Canon comic is a good example. There's stories in Rebels, like the story in Rebels where they have to go after Luminara and Dooley. The moment in Darth Vader where he discovers who Luke Skywalker is in the comic book is one of the most stunning pieces of art I've seen in this new level of storytelling that blends the Vader of then to the Anakin previous.
I want to speak to that for just a little bit, just for my part. I do appreciate that everyone is keeping an eye on what everyone else is writing, and I think that's fairly cool. But on the other hand, again, coming from that old expanded universe, and because we're the old people show, I do sort of keep in mind that it's still sort of a so long as the story works kind of environment for me. Like I know for a fact nothing that's happening in these comics and nothing that's happening in these books is really going to come to bear in any significant way on the films. Like maybe a little thing here or a little thing there might pop up or be referenced maybe. But for me, knowing that it's likely not going to factor in one way or the other into the films means that I enjoy it simply for what it's doing in its medium. Like people are worried about Sana Solo showing up in a movie or showing up in a spinoff or something like that's going to validate her character any further. And I don't need her to show up in a movie to validate her character. What I need her to do is make sense in the story that's being told immediately to me. And that's how I'm looking at all of these books and all of these comics and all of these TV shows. I don't mind whether or not they all match up one-to-one with the other, although I very much do appreciate it. What I like is, again, that opportunity and whether or not the opportunity is being realized.
How do you feel then about the Journey to the Force Awakens series, where you've got Chuck Wendig's Aftermath and you've got Shattered Empire from Marvel Comics that are specifically going to have an effect, and how that affects things transmedia with Battlefront and the Battle of Jakku?
But I think the effect is reversed. I don't think what Chuck Wendig is writing is going to show up in a movie. I think he's writing something that is reverse engineered to, make reference to something that's definitely going to happen one way or the other. Like how and why these things interlock isn't as important to me as whether or not the stories themselves are solid in and of themselves. And that's how I approach all of this new canon. I do like that it interlocks, but for me, it's more about whether or not the book that I have just purchased works as a book that I have just purchased and works as its own self-contained bit of storytelling. And I think that even though everything does interlock fairly well, thanks to the story group and their eagle eye, I think that the people who are writing these stories are writing them to work on their own. Like you don't need to go and, read the Star Wars comic by Jason Aaron in order to have the Darth Vader comic by Kieran Gillen work as well as it could. And I think that was where things got tripped up in the old expanded universe, is that you had to read this one thing in order to make this other thing that you wanted to read feel more important. And I like that these do interlock, but they seem to approach storytelling from a more standalone perspective. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's wonderful connectivity from a bunch of storytellers working together with a common goal, and that's to entertain us and to make a good Star Wars story. To me, what makes a good Star Wars story is a story that needs to be told, that should be told, not something superfluous that doesn't matter, that doesn't advance the plot of the characters. Maybe one of the biggest things about Heir to the Jedi that was problematic is that how much did it really, that's a novel, right? A novel is supposed to advance a character. There's some conflicts, and at the end they have grown in some way to be a better person or a bigger person or to learn more than they had before. So how much is Luke learning in that novel? To me, just telling these stories with these iconic characters and they don't advance in any way, shape, or form, that's a trick. Now, I grant you that there are movies where all the major growth comes from, but that is the challenge of being a good storyteller and being a good writer and being a good artist. Can you work within those parameters and still advance your characters in a positive way? Another thing, too, about, for me personally, the whole idea that there is a story group that things are connected, like Brian and everybody was talking about, to me that it gives it more weight, it gives it more gravitas. It makes me care. I'm more apt to pick up all these novels because I know they have some weight to them, and that's not to disparage or be pejorative about the Legends line, but the fact that these things have some significance to them makes me want to look at them, again, provided that they tell a story that needs to be told.
I think, to go back to Bobby's point, though, if they work as books, then they work for me. I can't imagine myself going back and taking away any value from the Heir to the Empire series because it doesn't have that weight anymore. Those still work really well as books.
Well, and those characters actually grow and change and learn. I mean, those absolutely. That's the weight is the character development, not the what's going on and if it's disavowed or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm fairly curious, especially with regards to Wendig's upcoming trilogy, simply because if we're going to use the analogy, he's essentially the Zahn of this new canon. Like, they handed him the keys. He got the shot that Zahn got back in the 90s. He gets the trilogy that is set immediately after Return of the Jedi, and he has to tell the story of the rebellion becoming the Republic and fending off an empire that doesn't want to lay down. Like, he gets to be Zahn for the 21st century. That's interesting as hell to me, especially since, like I said earlier, I read a lot of this new stuff with the ghosts of the old EU still floating around my head. I got Brian Daly, I got Ann Crispin, and I've got Timothy Zahn, and he's going to be perched on my shoulder when I crack that first page of Aftermath. And I'm like, all right, Wendig, tell me a story. This better be a good one. And it better be a good one. Like, I don't want to be unfair to Chuck Wendig, but I'm like, if I'm going to spend $25 on a Star Wars book, I want a good Star Wars story, damn it.
when Timothy Zahn is perched on his shoulder, is he saying nevermore over and over again?
He's spitting out all sorts of weird names that have 15 apostrophes in them and 25 vowels. That's I don't know. Maybe it's nevermore in some sort of weird Aqualish language or something. But.
It could be. So we talked a lot about specific examples of stories and what makes good storytelling. But what so far for all of you have been the most rewarding stories that we've seen since we've transitioned to the new canon?
I heard Brian say earlier that he likes Rebels except for one episode. Sitting here, I can't think of which one that episode was, but I mean, for me, I'll mirror what they said about the comics. Some of the Vader comics I really like. Some of them fell flat for me. The Leia comic was good, but after we got this first episode of Rebels for season 2, the way that story is building up, that's really all I can think of, to be honest with you.
I think the thing that's worked best for me, hands down, is Rebels, and how it builds up to that story. It adds to the mythology, which is for me, that's one of the things I really love, is seeing how things affect and shade my understanding of other things. And
Brian's more eloquent than me. Absolutely.
and watching the ending of Rebels season 1 and the beginning of season 2, it gave me everything I needed in Star Wars, right? It was fun. Mm-hmm. It was action-packed. Everyone was on the run. Vader was a monster, and it was emotional and dealt with the mythology. It was like everything I wanted and needed.
Absolutely.
See, I want to say not Clone Wars. I want to say Rebels, but I also feel like that would be sort of cheating, because the reason Rebels works as well as it does, especially with the pair of episodes that Brian just mentioned, the season finale of 1 and the season premiere of 2, and probably the last 2 episodes before the season finale. So basically, you got a 4-episode arc. And the way I just described it should have you feeling, well, that's a 4-episode arc that tells a semi-complete story that advances some characters. That sounds like Clone Wars. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, it's sort of unfair, because Rebels at this point is just Clone Wars season 7 now. Like, and that's basically what, and that's not necessarily a negative, but I also sort of feel like it's kind of cheating.
I guess I could see that, but
yeah, like I'm really anticipating Wendig's Aftermath. Like, it's hard for me to argue against Rebels season 2 premiere, but I'm really looking forward to Aftermath.
Have you guys read Lando #1 yet?
Yes.
I haven't gotten to Lando #1.
I enjoyed the dickens out of it. It was pretty so great. Fun. And it put a smile on my face. And Bobby, I think you're going to like it the most.
I hope
it's pretty
so,
slick.
That was one of the things I did not like about Rebels was Lando's insertion, because I don't think they got Lando's character right in that episode. Like, he was way too sunshiny and bubbly, and nothing ever bothered him, and nothing ever really went wrong. Like, he was too slick by about a factor of 2.5.
He was bluffing. He has to sell it. He's a gambler.
Yeah, but like, even when you bluff and you lose, I need to see you as a character sweat that a little bit. And Lando sweated nothing in the entirety of that episode. So I wasn't exactly happy with that. I'm curious to see how he plays in the comic.
He's great. I will say they overuse the word brother as too much of a colloquialism, but other than that, it's a pretty good issue.
Yeah. Well, I hope that I hope actually I'm going to argue that if Lando is using brother a lot in that comic, he needs to keep using it, because by all means, whatever you can do to reclaim that word from Hulk Hogan, please do it. Please reclaim that word so that when someone says brother, you don't think Hulk Hogan. Go ahead and think Lando.
Or Savage Opress.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, if any word spoken aloud by Clancy Brown is a word that you should savor.
That's gold, Jerry. It's gold. That's right. Corey, it just occurred to me that we didn't get you to answer 2 or 3, so why don't you jump in here on both?
Well, I was gonna mix in my answer.
You left for a date.
You left early, yes. No, I was gonna mix in. What makes a good Star Wars story tends to be the ones that are most rewarding. You guys talk about storytelling, and I tend to agree with whatever medium is used, be it comics and the novels or a TV show. If it can come over well as a in the context of its medium, and fill me with joy and goosebumps and goodness, then it's part because the folks behind the story group, I think, know which medium will work the best. Like, it seems to be that Rebels works the best on the screen because it can house all these new ideas and move at a fast pace and do that well. Where in the long form of a novel or a comic series, they can draw things out a little further and move it a little differently. And I think if that's done right, that's a good Star Wars story. Whether it be the big characters or the small characters, and its medium, if it works well, it's a good Star Wars story if I enjoy it, because it's just it's who I am. But things that don't work, I think things that are, like you said, Dan, are kind of being forced. And Bobby, I think you said it was a good narrative where it's taking that cul-de-sac maneuver and going in circles. So rewarding. My biggest hang-up is this Chuck Wendick book, because it is going to be that turning point as far as moving into this new canon and really pushing in things into the Force Awakens. This is the first momentum we have going.
That's more pressure than the Force Awakens, because that's the immediate sequel to Return of the Jedi.
Right,
to me, that's more pressure.
I think so too. And to put it in long form like that,
he can't do worse than the Truce at Bakura.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But I think it's going to be people are going to be analyzing this the most, because they're assuming, well, this is going to tie into the movie. We'll be seeing characters and events that are going to be happening right into the movie, which I hope that's true. I mean, I hope that, but we won't know until we see the movie. But it's almost it's I don't know. I'm so on the fence. I'd love to read it, but I also feel like I'm ruining the movie in a sense too. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Oh, we're not getting advanced copies. So
no advanced copies.
It's pretty serious.
What would you think if he kills Wedge?
Oh man.
Can't kill Wedge. Well, I guess he could. Actually, that was one of my bigger gripes with the old expanded universe, and I know that they were prevented. A lot of the writers were prevented from giving characters what would have been natural endings. Of course, aside from Chewbacca, Chewbacca got to have an ending in the old expanded universe. But there was a point there, I want to say before the New Jedi Order even started, and definitely after it started, where I was like, they got to get rid of Luke. Like, in order to have his character still possess some semblance of meaning and pack some sort of punch in a narrative sense, he's got to die at some point. You can't just live forever and win every fight over and over and over again.
That was
at that point, it's just superhero comics, and I don't know.
Well.
I mean, there's a lot of overlap. I mean, superhero comics and Star Wars Venn diagram pretty decently, but there is a difference between one and the other.
That's what I liked about the Legacy comic book series from Dark Horse Comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
you have Luke dead and his, crack addict, great grandson, who's the last of his line that he's haunting.
Yeah.
I really, really liked that. And that was because, they did get rid of him. The Sith did do another Jedi purge, and they undid everything Luke did, and there were things at stake again.
Yeah. Well, and it was also...
There has to be cost. For there to be any kind of narrative buy-in, there has to be cost.
Well, and also I do want to point out, like, you can still get Legacy. It's still available for purchase. It's not like Lucasfilm, hid it away from the world once Marvel got the rights back to Star Wars comics. You can still get them. Those comics are actually pretty fun. Like, it sounded dour the way Brian just described it, and it's not like I could describe it and make it sound like it's upbeat, but those are actually pretty fun comics. I mean, the stakes are different. And there's some serious business going on when serious business needs to get gotten down to. But those Legacy is some pretty fun comics. So if you haven't given those a shot yet, give those a shot, most definitely.
I think all that stuff is next to the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant in a big warehouse.
So, guys, we talk about movies or stories that have been rewarding to us, and you talk about Wedge a little bit. What are some of the stories that need to be told or haven't been told yet, and what needs to be more left ambiguous to the whole thing? It's so funny because they go back and tell you stories about, for instance, Tarkin and kind of his upcomings and the Vader and the Emperor's book, and it seems like there's a kind of rehashes a little bit. Like, okay, we've treaded this water before. Does this need to be told? Can we just kind of go along with the story? And then what else is maybe not told well enough, or we need more background on?
I'd like to know what happened to the DeBerrys.
Of course you would.
Yes, we know.
Oh boy.
No, I think some of the stories, for me, the stories I really want to know about are one of the biggest question marks for me is what happened to Ahsoka during that 14-year gap between Order 66 and, well, not even between Order 66, from just before Order 66, from the time she left the Jedi to the time she shows up as Fulcrum. There are a lot of unanswered questions there that, since Ahsoka is central to the mythology, but not necessarily central to the driving force of the movies, I think it makes it very ripe for that storytelling to fill in some of those gaps.
You think Dave has that script?
I don't think he's got a script. He's got, when I talked to him at one point, I think it's Celebration or just after Celebration or just before Celebration, and he was saying that Ahsoka was going to drop some hints about what had happened, but do it in a very matter-of-fact way in season 2, and that we're not going to get those answers, and no one else is going to know exactly what she's talking about, but she's going to make reference to things, and I'm assuming it's probably to Captain Rex, that we're just not going to know.
Yeah. And there's another big war/battle somewhere thrown in between her that they said they're going to start alluding to as well. Is that the same thing?
It could be. You never know with Filoni.
As long as with Ahsoka that they're prudent, and I have complete faith in Dave and everybody, but as long as it doesn't become like a Where's Waldo where she just suddenly pops up randomly for no reason everywhere else, and
I don't think
they do a retcon of her. I hope they don't do that.
Having not seen Force Awakens yet and basing this solely on a 1-second image I've seen in a trailer, I'd like to see an origin story on Captain Phasma, like now. Like
for me, the stories that I don't want are stories that sort of, I know this is as much a part of Star Wars as, the opening scroll to every movie for some people. But I don't want anything beyond what happened with the old Star Wars Legends of Mos Eisley or Legends of Jabba's Palace. Like, not everything that shows up on screen needs to have its own origin story and adventure.
Right.
Like it doesn't need to happen. Like I know we have joked multiple times on Full of Sith about the secret life of Wilro Hood and his magic ice cream maker. Like everyone knows about that character, and the fact that he even got a name is amazing. But like, Weequay doesn't need to have his own story. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what the equivalent of Weequay is going to be in The Force Awakens.
Baba Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Baba Joe. Like, I don't know if I need to have like a Baba Joe comic miniseries that goes for 6 issues. And I think that's part of what gave the expanded universe, the old Legends expanded universe, some of the more sour tastes was the idea that the expanded universe was just a place you went so that your old action figures now had 300-page novels. And it didn't work out that way in reality all that much, but it was still just sort of that general aspect. Like, the character that you saw for 3 seconds in Return of the Jedi is a major supporting character. And like at that point, just give me new characters, because I can invest in a new character way more than I can in, random Weequay from the left. Like, give me a new character in the Star Wars setting, and that provides me with a new, fresh canvas. And I can appreciate that, I think, a little bit more than you grabbing an action figure and then setting it on my desk and moving it around the desk in interesting ways for me. I'm not saying you can't have a good story that way, but for me, what I'm looking forward to more are interesting new original stories with interesting new original characters that are maybe exclusive to the medium that they come out on. Maybe they only exist in the book, or maybe they only exist in the animated series. But I want to see new people, and I don't want to see people going back to the old characters, to the hero characters too much, because then you end up with that situation I was talking about before, where I sit back in the middle of my book and go, they need to straight up kill Luke Skywalker for him to still maintain any sort. And I don't want to have to do that with characters like Rey or Finn. I don't want to have to, in, like 6-7 years, pick up the 30th Adventures of Rey book and go, why don't we have a new character
You would
here?
want to see Finn pop up in one of the movies?
No.
Who?
Who? And I
Who did you just say?
Ventress.
Yeah, not going to happen. Continue, Bobby.
I think like the sort of preciousness around some of these characters needs to be done away with, is basically that's more or less what I'm getting at. Like that sort of preciousness, that halo of protection that sits around some characters, that needs to either be done away with or avoided entirely by grabbing new characters so you can do the interesting thing with a story that you really want to do.
I would like to agree with Bobby to for most of that, and also say that one character I also don't want to see any more stories about is anything post Return of the Jedi featuring Boba Fett.
Thank you. I was just going to say that, and I think it's time to stop making it time for Boba Fett to be the fulcrum for everything that happens in the Star Wars universe. I mean, now he's indirectly responsible or directly responsible for Vader finding out that it was a Skywalker that blew up the Death Star.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense in the context of the story.
To be that way? Maybe that's a story that I'm better left at is ambiguous.
So, that made context in the story where Vader goes to Tatooine, right? It's before he's developed his relationship with Boba Fett, and he goes to Jabba's people and says, "Hey, I need some guys to help me find this kid that was here."
Right.
I don't know if I like that.
Rocco,
You think he'd go there himself? He wouldn't send a transmission? You think he'd actually...
Yeah. I never liked the idea of him going back to Tatooine, much less bum rushing Jabba's palace. Yeah, I did not like that at all. I was like, what is he doing here? I mean, and it provides a lot of really cool images.
He's a bounty hunter. He's not one of Jabba's flunkies. Why can't he just go out and do his own thing?
He's just in his own right.
See, but I think the special edition gave us Boba Fett as one of Jabba's flunkies.
Sadly, yes, you're correct.
Well, they didn't know the impact I think they would have on fandom, I think, too. I mean...
Yeah, well, I mean, but for me, though, like, that's a decent example of what I was talking about. Like, I don't like the idea of Vader going back to Tatooine and cutting deals with Jabba the Hutt like that. No. Like, I don't like the idea of him going back to Tatooine at all, especially considering how the storytelling up till that point, up until... I saw him in the comic back on the planet. The storytelling was like, there's no way he goes back there. There's
a reason that Luke is hidden in plain sight on Tatooine, because they figure Vader won't want to. That was
exactly.
All the authors we talked to, we've had Pablo on, and the way the story group works, it does seem that they propose a story and they pretty much just say that sounds good, but you can't do X, Y, or Z because that might come up later.
Yeah,
and that's great. The thing about these stories, as far as what needs to be told. Make sure you tell a story that advances the character and the plot, but don't just throw in a new character just to put your stamp on the Star Wars universe. I think a lot of comic book creators fall into the habit of doing that when they take an iconic character like Superman or Batman and they oh, by the way, Superman has a son now, and how does that advance the narrative? The things that I don't want to be told about, I don't want to know anything about Yoda's past. Mm-hmm. I like that it's ambiguous. I think there's a lot of power in ambiguity, and we're such a. I mean, you can say you're the old folks show, but we're actually older than you. So I'm gonna start yelling at squirrels and say, we don't need that. Like that's not important. That doesn't hold any weight.
How would you feel about a story of Yoda mentoring a Padawan Dooku?
Now, see, that would be cool as long as it's somewhere in the time frame of Phantom Menace.
Well, that would be, that would be 50 years before that.
Yeah. I mean, it's still pretty much within those same characters. But anything well before that, before Dooku's born, I don't really need to know about.
That'd be more of a Dooku story.
Don't get any Christopher Lee out of that, so I don't know.
Yeah. Anything with Christopher Lee is totally right on. But I think there's some things I think that we need to stay away from the instant gratification. I have to know everything. If we knew everything, there wouldn't be a Full of Sith or a Coffee with Kenobi because there'd be nothing to discuss or analyze.
Well, I mean, I'll say, you guys might melt me for this, but I'm getting a little tired of Vader being in everything. I like that he's in Rebels. I think it really brings a lot to the New Hope. But having a comic and having him be in every comic line and doing his thing and stuff, I feel like he's like that Batman of the Star Wars. He's everywhere. He's every comic. He's every cover and a new costume and.
I think Boba Fett's worse.
Well, Boba Fett's probably worse, but it still feels like I want that to be left alone a little bit so that we can just enjoy the character for what he's known for.
6-7 months ago,
the whole. Go ahead, Mike.
6-7 months ago, I was all about Darth Vader being in everything. Darth Vader's my favorite character. So that is Star Wars to me. And just by talking to people, Brian and Bobby, in this instance, I would love to see Vader in every episode of Rebels 6 months ago, but now I kind of don't. I kind of want it to be used sparingly, like when you make a point. Yeah.
The thing that made Jaws so effective was that you never saw the shark, and when you did, it meant something. There was a lot of power to that, which is pretty.
That there's something scarier than death, and he kills himself because he's afraid of Vader. Vader didn't even need to be in that room. Vader
exactly
in that area. So that's powerful.
Brian, were you going to say something?
I was going to say now Shark Week is popular, so you didn't need to see the shark before, but now we have Shark Week.
But now you can't get away from it.
On 2 different channels, Shark Fest and Shark Week.
That's right. So, gentlemen, our coffee's getting low. We've had a heck of an awesome conversation, as always. Is there any last-minute thoughts or ideas that any of you want to throw out before we say our goodbyes?
I want Courtney to have a nice date.
I'll be thinking of all of you guys. Don't worry.
No, don't.
Please don't.
I'd like to still know where the Naberries are.
As well you should. I'm pretty sure that'll be a mini-series.
Yeah.
No.
I'd love that.
It's the one that's going to be on Netflix. Where are the Naberries?
I've been told in no uncertain terms that I'm the only one who cares.
Bobby, anything else for you?
How upset would you be if that was the new Netflix series? Where are the names?
Not at all, man. It could be like this really cool noir where they're trying to figure out what actually happened to Padme, and like
it wouldn't be a noir, man. It would be a sitcom. It would be like Married with Children.
The Lego special.
To live in Brian's head for 10 minutes.
Oh,
Bobby, did you want to add anything? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
I mean, I'm approaching all of the new canon with a wait and see sort of deal. I'm not writing anything off just because it might not necessarily be a story that I don't want. Like I know for a fact we're going to get a Boba Fett story, and he's going to be a spotlight character going forward. I'm going to try it out, though. I'm definitely going to be a little bit more inclined to give things a fairer shot now that essentially the expanded universe has been rebooted. I'm going to be inclined to jump on things that I otherwise would have hand waved away. So I'm just, my mindset is like, you've got opportunities now. You've got a fresh slate in front of you. I want to see if you can capitalize on those opportunities. I want to see if you can actually tell me a Boba Fett story that doesn't bore me to tears, that doesn't rely entirely on 13-year-old adolescent ideas of what being a badass is. Like, if you can actually tell me a cool story with Boba Fett, I'm in. This is one of the few times you're ever going to have me in. So don't mess it up.
And it would also be nice to see a little bit of story between Empire and Jedi too. that doesn't have Princess Ezor in it.
Yes.
We'll
So
get
guys,
there. I mean, we'll
yes,
get there.
Thank you again so much for being on Coffee with Kenobi. Go ahead and tell everybody if you would, and hopefully all of your listeners follow us over here so they already know. But just in case, where can everyone find you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Well, they can go to fullofsith.com. All of our contact information is there. They can see us on Twitter at fullofsith. And at Swankmatron is Brian. At the mic is me. At Amy_geek is Amy. And Facebook.com/fullofsith. That has a lot of stuff too. So thank you.
Anybody else have any fun little projects happening? Brian's always got some, when he's not harassing me about not interviewing him for Insider, he's writing an Insider himself.
I did. I'm drowning in Insider pieces, actually. I've got a few coming out over the next couple of months, and I've got my column on Star Wars Insider about the cinema influences of Star Wars.
Which is awesome.
And thank you. And I've got, keep an eye out because I've got a couple of books that are going to be going up for pre-order in the next collection of space opera short stories that Star Wars fans will love called Escape Vector coming soon. And a novel called The Aeronaut coming in late September.
Nice. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just sort of hanging out on Facebook, silently judging you for doing it wrong. That's basically. That's what I'm growing older. I'm getting crankier, and I'm folding my arms at the Star Wars fandom, and I am taking notes. And then like basically every weekend I show up with Brian and Amy and Mike, and then I go in for about 45 minutes.
And absolutely. And Star Wars fandom is better for having you guys there, no question about it. So thank you again, gentlemen, so much. Amy, we missed you, but we will see you soon, and we'll do this again next year, I'm sure.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
More to add, do you?
For our discussion emails, we've got a few nice ones here. One from Rich Chase, and he writes to us and says, "Hi, guys. I want to share my thoughts on the status of the new canon. When Disney purchased Lucasfilm, my fear was that fans would get a watered-down version of Star Wars, because Disney would want to recoup their $4.5 billion as quickly as possible. I believe that we get some great Star Wars mixed in with some really lousy Star Wars. Think back to the great Disney animated films like Aladdin and The Lion King, and their, quote, direct-to-video, end quote, sequels. As I originally feared, the new canon has been a mixed bag. I'll break it down by media. Film. Force Awakens is a movie that everyone wants to see. With the anthology films plunked in between the already accelerated episodic installments, how much Star Wars can we see before it feels watered down? Part of enjoying the release of a new film was the anticipation during 3 years waiting. Rogue One is a fascinating idea. However, do we really need to cheapen Han Solo's mysterious background just because we'll sell a few more tickets? Novels. Again, a mixed bag. Christy Golden's Dark Disciple crossed the line from a good Star Wars book to simply good literature, not spoiling any other character arc beloved by fans. The only issue I took with the novel was Anakin's duel with Dooku. Why? Doesn't that cheapen the first scene in Revenge of the Sith? Lords of the Sith was a fun read, but not a story for which I was pining. A New Dawn nailed it. It was a great story that added the mythos without cheapening our original experience. Television. I can't say enough about Rebels. Too enthusiastic thumbs up. For Marvel Comics, another mixed bag. Kanan the Last Padawan has been great at supplementing the mythology. Darth Vader has done the same thing. It managed to take a beloved original character in Darth Vader and made it more complex and more fascinating. I'm not sure I ever thought about that moment that Vader found out about Luke's identity. Once I saw those panels in Darth Vader number 6, I was convinced that we needed it. It was a powerful moment. However, there are moments that cheapen the saga. Why in Star Wars 2 do we really need a lightsaber duel between Vader and Luke? That cheapened their first encounter in The Empire Strikes Back. And why at the end of Lando number 1 is that the Emperor's shuttle that Lando steals? Doesn't that cheapen the Emperor's character just a bit too? Isn't that Star Wars universe only slightly bigger than that? I do have a story that I'd like to have told, and I wanted to pitch it to Lucasfilm. Without giving them the idea, I reached out to them. They politely told me that they do not accept outside story pitches. I want to hear the original story of the Inquisitors. I like to know why they're force sensitive, but seemingly not force strong. Why the lightsaber seemingly an automated standard issue saber? I love the show. Keep up the good work. Well, Rich, you bring up some wonderful points. Some of them we kind of addressed with our conversation with our friends from Full of Sith. I agree with you, by the way. This isn't really Star Wars related, but the direct-to-video sequels to Aladdin and Lion King were horrible.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, big thumbs down. But Disney has already shown, yes, they're putting the movies out quicker. And I know that in the original films, they were 3 years between. But this is a different world now. This is a much more instant gratification society, as I mentioned previously. And with social media and things like that, people do stuff quick. I mean, look at the release of albums. It used to be like a super band, like a U2 or somebody like that. They release a new album every 4 to 6 years. But now you pretty much have to release new singles all the time to be relevant. You know what I mean? I mean, does Taylor Swift ever get a break?
She gets a break once in a while. But, as he kind of alludes to
she shakes it off.
She shakes it off. Nice. As Rich alludes to here, I can see it cheapening some of the bigger moments in Star Wars films.
Did it cheapen? Has Marvel been cheapened? I think now
I haven't reached some of the Marvel moments. From what I heard from you and from our folks, they're good. I think they're good in their own context. Like I mentioned too in the discussion, is the comics version of it. It does a good job of telling a story.
For which one are you talking about?
The Star Wars, where Luke and
the Star.
Vader
I thought you meant
meet.
the Marvel. Like you made it seem like you haven't seen any of the Marvel movies.
No, I've seen all of those.
You've seen Ant-Man?
No, I've not seen Ant-Man. Not yet.
I haven't either.
Ooh, movie time.
Let's do it.
Anyway, as the comics go, like you said, it kind of cheapens that moment between Luke and Vader. But in my mind, I kind of come around the idea like, well, I had to have maybe, faced off before that, and then finding out the identity of Luke, he had to have somehow. But I remember watching as a kid, then Empire Strikes Back, thinking, how did he know, who Luke was? I just kind of assumed like, he just knows because he knows all. He's Vader. Nobody can stop this guy. And it's not cheapening this stuff. I guess you could avoid it if you wanted to. I don't know. If it tells a good story, I think in my mind it's done its job. Whether it's a novel or a comic,
right,
or a film, it's like Dan, you said, it's a different kind of world now we live in, and as much as we don't want to admit it, it is. And
social media has changed everything. Sometimes for the better, and sometimes not as much.
Right, exactly. And as far as Disney, wanting to make their money back, they will. That was a no-brainer. They're not rushing these films out to recoup their money. They're expanding the universe in a way that George wanted it to be. I think that George did it this way because he knew they had the backing and the possibilities to be able to bring all this to fruition. And I think I want to give another shout out to the Story Group, who we've talked to numerous folks who've worked with the Story Group, and Pablo himself, who have said, we work constantly together on tying everything together and making sure everything works together so that, we're not overlapping each other, we're not retelling some of the same stories. And that's not an easy fate. I wouldn't want to do that personally. I would love to hear about it, but, somebody said I had to do this. I'd be like, oh my goodness, but these folks, obviously well-versed in everything out there, and props to them for giving out solid material, for us to take on. Now, as we get closer to Force Awakens, it's going to really open the floodgates for all kinds of things. And I've had my distance from the comics only because of purely monetary reasons, but I do want to get into those and see what they have to offer too. It's you think of Marvel comics as a good position to put because we're seeing them leap to the films now and transition back and forth and try to have some continuity to it. I think Star Wars so far that Disney's been owning it has had some great continuity putting everything together.
I agree with you. I'm pretty well caught up on the Marvel comics. I have all of them. The only two I haven't read are Princess Leia and 4 and 5, just because I've been putting it off because I liked 1. I mentioned that earlier, but 2 I did not like at all. Now 3 got me a little more excited about the story, and I do enjoy the Dodson's take on Leia. But this isn't Comics with Kenobi, although I do love our spin-off show, Comics with Kenobi. Matt and Jeff are awesome, as are Randy and Luke with Legends Library and the Legends discussions. And he talks about the novels here. How'd you like that for a transition, Corey?
There you go.
He writes and says, does Anakin's duel with Dooku cheapen the first scene in Revenge of the Sith? And I don't think so because of the Clone Wars, right?
Right. They duel all the time. I mean, you go back, I was actually surprised when I first started watching Clone Wars that they did duel as much as they did because, like you said, it doesn't cheapen that. It kind of brings their arc against each other or as foes. Kind of
it makes it more venomous.
Yeah, it gives it some more bulk, if you will.
Yeah, it's like Rocky and Apollo. That's a Freddie Prinze Jr. thing. He'll like that. But I think sometimes when people get that confused, it's more like Grievous, because when Grievous and Anakin meet at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, their dialogue leads you to believe that they have never encountered one another face to face. So that would probably cheapen if that happened, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, it's something we're going to have to get used to, I think, as we move on into the Star Wars realm. And as new fans come up into it, they're going to have new moments in their fandom that they won't even know about the film. So it kind of transitions, or it kind of how are you gonna call it? It elevates different experiences for different people, because younger folks might be getting into Rebels and getting the comic books when they've never seen the films, and then to go to see the films and go, oh my goodness, all this other stuff happened. So the reversal, I guess you can call it that. So I guess we'll have to kind of take it as it is.
So Rich also asks something about the Inquisitors being force sensitive but not force strong. I think the answer to that, Pablo acknowledged that, and I was very fortunate, very blessed that on an episode of Rebels Recon, Andy asked Pablo about that, because I sent that tweet, and he said to us that, and to everybody, that they are not Sith. They know the Force, they have some training, but they're not Sith. So that means a lot of things. They don't have the discipline, they don't have the years put into it. It means a lot of things, but they're not as powerful. It's sort of like, I could pick up a lightsaber if I lived in this fictional universe. And if I had some sort of training, I can maybe move it around like Grievous does, right? You can still be athletic and acrobatic and be a good, solid fighter, but you're not full-blown into being a Jedi or a Sith Lord. Does that make sense?
I guess that makes some sense to me. I guess just as we are on this topic, he is use Force Lightning. Does he use Force Lightning? No, maybe he doesn't. I take that back.
Machine.
It was a machine. You're right. And his lightsaber's also kind of like a cheat lightsaber, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So I guess they tried to one up him a little bit, kind of give some advanced tech. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, it's a rule of two. So
they can't be Sith.
Right. Yeah, the other thing too. I would love to explore the Inquisitor's origin story and how they come to be, and why they are with who they are, and what's their rank, and it's something I'm assuming that they would have plans for in some aspect in a novel or a comic or something, but I guess time will tell. Our next discussion email comes from our good friend Ryder Waldron, who blogs directly on our website, and he says, "Hey guys, I was excited to hear Coffee with Kenobi and Full of Sith are doing a couple crossover shows, since your podcast are the first two Star Wars podcasts I ever listened to after seeing Bryan Young at Salt Lake Comic-Con. Now, I don't miss any of the panels that Bryan moderates, because they always end up being so interesting. I'm very excited about where Star Wars canon is going currently. The story group has done an amazing job of giving us more information about characters we are already very familiar with, while at the same time introducing more questions and adding layers to the characters and stories. For example, in the Star Wars comics, we have learned that Luke and Boba Fett fought at Ben Kenobi's hut on Tatooine. That adds so much to the brief encounter Luke and Boba have on the skiff over the Sarlacc pit. Also, we have learned that Darth Vader learned Luke's name even before The Empire Strikes Back. I already loved the exchange between Vader and Palpatine in The Empire Strikes Back, but so much is added to that scene now that we know Vader already knew about Luke. Thanks to all of you for all the great shows, Ryder Waldron." Well, Ryder, thank you so much for writing in and tell us what you think about the current state of canon. And he alludes to some of the things we've talked about as far as learning Luke's identity. And it brings up a certain topic that I think some folks have mentioned, that, this is a galaxy far, far away. And aren't there more characters than just kind of the bulk of, the top three and Vader and Boba Fett? And can we expand a little more outside the realm of these well-known characters? And I guess I'm kind of on the fence on that kind of thing. What about you, Dan?
Which one are you on the fence about?
Well, as far as people wanting to just kind of get outside Luke and Han and Leia and Vader and explore some of the other pockets of the galaxy.
Oh, yeah. I don't care about. If a story is well told, like if you had told me 3 years ago that there's going to be a new character named Kanan, that you're going to hold as in high of esteem as almost like a Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, I'll be like, no. Right. But I did, and I have, because of how he's been presented and the talent that goes into making him. But for the most part, I like it to focus. I do think that I'm okay with having less and less Han and Luke stories as time goes on, because we've got a lot about them over 40 years almost, even though not all of them are canon. Most of them aren't. I am excited for the Han Solo film, but I'm digressing. I want to randomly cut myself off and say Ryder is so awesome, and I'm flattered that he would write to us, because he's always been a great supporter of our show through Twitter, through email. He's been on the show for us. He covered Salt Lake Comic-Con for us, and he's just done a great job, and we hung out with him and his wife at Celebration. But he has a podcast called Idiots Array through the Cantina Cast feed, our great friends over there. And they always talk about Star Wars canon in the stories, and their show's really good. I mean, they've got some great insights. They're smart guys. I mean, Ryder is a doctor, after all, DDS, as Jeff always says. And their last show, I'm going to look it up here while we're chatting, Corey.
Sure.
But their last show was brilliant. It was episode 5 called The Idiot Strike Back. And I highly recommend that everybody listen to it, because they talk about this all the time. I didn't like Luke and Boba Fett fighting at Ben's hut on Tatooine. I thought it was frustrating because I just don't feel like Boba Fett should be the fulcrum for everything. I really like Boba Fett. I think he's super cool. I love his design. I love the character. But I think that, if anything, he is a bit oversaturated.
I can agree with that. I mean, it seems... I mean, these characters are, you kind of equate them to, Superman or Batman or Wolverine.
Yeah.
Wolverine was almost in every comic back in the 90s. I think he was so big.
But that doesn't bother me for some reason.
Really? See, it bothers me. It seems like, well, where's his continuity as far as why is he on the Avengers? Why is he on the X-Men?
I think I know why.
Well, it makes money. That's what he's on every cover that's variant. And,
but he's actually a deep, profound, complex character with an incredible history.
Boba Fett's not?
No.
Why?
He's not complex.
Why is he not complex? He's got daddy issues, and he saw his dad killed in front of him. He hates the Jedi.
That's true. All right, you know what? You're all right, Christopher Walken. You sort of convinced me there. He's still not Hamlet.
He's not Hamlet, but neither is Wolverine.
Well, he's way closer. There's more to him. Yes, Boba Fett did lose his father in a very horrible, brutal way, and he has every reason to not like the Jedi. But other than that,
kind of like Batman, he's lost his parents too, and he's a brooding character.
I think Batman's a little more complex as well.
Maybe. He's a clone. He's a clone of his dad. He's a clone of his dad. That kind of mixes you up a little bit. It looked just like your dad when he was younger. That messes with you a little bit. Well, plus, you're running around and doing missions with all these other bounty hunters that are double your age and killing people. And I mean, you're only a 12-year-old kid. That's just Boba Fett.
How you grew up?
No, not at all. But I'm just saying, like, the similarities as far as character popularity, they're gonna treat it with. Yeah, they're gonna treat it with some robustness, because people like these characters. There are a lot of people that like a lot of different characters out there, and I'd love to see more obscure characters come forward, and kind of take center spotlights and stuff, and kind of learn their backgrounds and whatnot. There's a lot of different mysteries, I think, in Star Wars universe to be able to look into, and some are worth looking into, and like you said, the fight between Luke and Boba Fett, probably not much so. This doesn't need to be put there.
When you see it, I think it'll bug you too, and I think the reason it bugged me is because Luke really shouldn't have survived, and
that's
Boba
the case
Fett
too.
Really was pretty brutal. I mean, this is way before Luke had this training from Yoda, so it'd be a much different story later. And also, I think when Boba Fett first encounters Luke at the end of Empire Strikes Back, there's just a bit of a power to. I've always in my head, there's always sort of an inner narrative going when I watch that scene where Boba Fett's like, "Who is this guy? He's good."
I thought that same thing. Now that you said that, I remember going back and watching it as a kid and I love that whole scene. And the fact that I think that Boba Fett is just not as good as he could be in that scene. I feel like,
I think
Han's blind, Chewie's shackled up. Han's are Lando's in his disguise. Luke's swinging lightsaber, taking on 5 guys at once.
Oh, you're talking about Return of the Jedi now.
What did you say?
I was talking about Empire when he he's about to try, and Leia keeps leaning back. It's a trap. You know what I mean? And he's going to try to rescue them because he just left his training in Dagobah.
Oh, right.
And then he sees Boba Fett for the first time, and then Boba Fett shoots at him, and he hits the wall right by Luke. He's very accurate, but Luke just goes on undeterred and very brave and feeling very valiant in what he's about to do, which is about to find out who his father is, which he doesn't know that at the time. But you're talking about Return of the Jedi.
I'm thinking Return of the Jedi it just popped in my head. But
well, that's also a great scene too, where they encounter each other. And Ryder says that adds a little bit of interest and depth to it. And actually, I agree with him there. It does make that scene more interesting and poignant. But I don't know.
It seems like we're both kind of on the teeter-totter here as far as deciding what works and what doesn't. But it's got us talking,
which is good.
It's got us talking about it and discussing it because that's what it should do. If it can do that, then I guess leave it in. It gives us something to talk about, something to love, and something to hate, and so. With anything, people are going to love it or hate it, and
So thank you again, Ryan, for taking the time. You're a busy guy with your family and everything going on, and being a podcasting superstar. And so we appreciate you writing in, my friend. Our next email comes from Anthony, and Anthony writes, "Hello, fellows. Avid listeners since show number 1. Since I do not use social media, this will be my only means of contacting you folks. My thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the show for number 41, the current state of Star Wars canon. I was 10 years old when I saw Star Wars. Okay, so I'm not afraid to give away my age. Straight to the point, I'm happy with the current state of the Star Wars story, or as it seems to be referred to, canon. After the second coming of what was called the Expanded Universe, the first being Splinter of the Mind's Eye and Han Solo and Lando Calrissian Adventures, there was little that appealed to me. I did not like the majority of the stories that made it up. It expanded more with the addition of the Galactic Republic, Old Republic, and Clone Wars stories. Many of the Old Republic and Clone Wars stories, in their varied forms, were very good. I do hope, like many, that parts of what are my Star Wars will be included in what is the story of Star Wars. My feeling is that it is all one story now. It has mythology, legends within the mythology. I'm neither sad nor angry that many, many stories were not included. It did not ruin my childhood. I grew up with Star Wars. It did not grow up with me. So yes, I am happy with the current state of the story or canon. Sure, I'm a tad disappointed that some things aren't included. All plague us, anyone? And glad other things are not. Anything connected with Thrawn, even remotely. I am very excited to see what will more become a part of the story that I love. Since thoughts and opinions can either be right or wrong, these are mine. See you on the radio, Anthony W. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for writing in. It's always great to chat with people that have been listening, especially since the beginning. We're honored and flattered that you've stayed with us for so long. We really appreciate that. I like that he said that I grew up with Star Wars didn't grow up with me. So it's like kind of saying, at least this is how I'm reading Anthony's email, that it's still going to be something for kids, still going to have some powerful stuff. And while you're not going to think everything is wonderful, you still are embracing the overall whole. And that's great. I agree. I think that Plagueis would be great. See Plagueis incorporated into more of the canon. And again, as we're often apt to say, who knows what will happen? We'll kind of wait and see. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like we said before, it's people kind of give and take what they love and what they don't love. We just talked about it in our last little discussion about things we like and don't like. And certainly people are going to be, divided on what can go into canon and what cannot go in canon. We even discussed this on kind of when they originally announced the Legends line, moving into Legends and then moving on to the new canon. And they had to have something come up to be able to kind of wipe the slate clean, So, as Anthony kind of alludes to here, it's okay. He's okay with it, and it being, it's something that older fans kind of have to come to grips with. I mean, even I've had to come to grips with as far as the Clone Wars when it came out. I wasn't all that excited about it. I just wasn't. But I've come around to kind of like, oh, this is pretty cool actually. So it's grown on me, and I think that's with any franchise that can do that. And again, with the new canon here, it's the story, like you said, it's telling good stories in the context that they're placed into. And that's going to not agree with everybody, and I'm just going to agree with that. But if you can enjoy for what it is, and just have your favorites and then have stuff you don't like as well. So he's got some good mentions here as far as his likes and dislikes. So I'm down with it. Our topic for show number 40 is Star Wars and history. How has history inspired Star Wars? What does Star Wars teach us about history? And what are some more interesting parallels? How much does popular culture imitate real life? And what does it mean for us as a society? Joining us on this topic is Star Wars historian and author Cole Horton. In 300 words or less, be sure to send us an email or MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com.
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Ano, buddy, you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Our first email comes from Shane, and he says, "Hey, didn't know when you guys were going to send out the mugs for the few of us who won them at Star Wars Celebration, but did recently move apartments. Also, a question that could be an episode topic. How best do you store your Star Wars library? As noted, I recently moved and had the chance to finally sort through my library. I went with a legend line, filling bookcase in timeline order. Comics were separate, and starting another with Canon. Just wondering what your thoughts are." And that's from Shane. Thanks for the email, Shane. To address the Star Wars mugs, we did get a group of folks that won those at Celebration, and we've just been waiting on funds through our Patreon page to kind of gear up and get rolling, and we've been successful at that. So anybody who's also interested in that, go check that out as well. And it should be a couple weeks, I think, Dan. We're looking forward to placing an order officially with Zazzle, who kind of provided some quick response for cutting some red tape for us on Lucasfilm, helping us out with those orders. So we'll kind of hopefully fulfill those very soon. We're on the cusp of kind of grasping that and getting that ordered.
Yeah, and Lucasfilm was. Well, sorry to interrupt you again, man. I'm on a roll today, but they were really awesome about helping us out, and so we're gonna make that happen. And these mugs are different than the ones that you can buy on our website. These are the ones that actually have the Coffee with Kenobi podcasting logo. You're not supposed to generate merchandise with Star Wars trademark stuff on it, which makes complete sense. And unless you're giving them away, and we did give these away, and we got approval. And so, as Corey said, we're placing the order very soon, and we should have them out for you within the next couple of weeks. Shane and everybody, thank you so much for your patience. They are great looking mugs, and we're excited to send them out. I also want to address Shane's comments about how do you display your Star Wars library? How do you store it? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do have a couple bookshelves in my office. And I do have I actually have my Legends books separated from my Canon books.
Oh, wow.
And not by any means of distinction, but it just happened to kind of fall that way.
The order you got them, right?
No, they're just kind of in a specific order stacked on my bookshelf there. But I take that back. There are a couple... Well, there's a couple like visual guides and
grab
stuff.
Them and throw them up there to get them off the ground.
Yes, dust collectors. Yes, no. I do have all the hardback books set up together, but I've got paperback books in a different section, and I also have some like visual guides and some other things stacked together. I've got like the Jedi Path kind of stacked with that as well. So I guess it's kind of a mixture, kind of a hodgepodge. For me, I don't have any of the comics yet, so those would go in my comics box if I had some of those. And as far as putting those together, obviously it would go in our numerical order. So, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I like what he said. He's going to have like the he's got a Legends library bookcase and timeline order comics, and he's got another the Canon. I would probably put them on display in the order that I purchased them, just because I'm sort of silly that way. But when all the books I now, I have them in the order that I bought them because that's the order that I read them. I know I can check the Canon timeline and I can rearrange them, and that's not a terrible idea at all. In fact, I really like it. So if anything, Shane, you'd made me think about it even more. but I like your idea. You've got a Legends library shelf. You've got the comics on one. Then you've got the new Canon. So there's definitely a story to your story of your fandom. So very cool, Shane. And again, hopefully you can get your mug that you won at Celebration and have a sip of coffee while you're listening to the show and reading your Star Wars books.
Dan, how do you catalog your Star Wars films?
Oh, chronological order.
Now, is that how many, let's see, do you have the original DVDs or VHSs? Well, you've got it on Beta. So is that like the first, like from left to right?
I've got them in order. Yeah, left to right from the order that I got
that you originally got them. Okay.
My original Beta that cost me $100.
See,
just for the videotape, and then all the way to the most current version. And then I've got the iTunes versions now too.
Oh, that's right. Those I need to get those. I do just have the DVD set, kind of the episodes from. I have them from 1 to 6. That's why I just have them placed in there. But next to that is the Firefly series. So.
Oh boy.
That's a whole different show, folks.
It is.
Whole different show.
Yeah, I think we should do just a random show, a coffee chat where
we
talk about random geeky stuff that we like, and how we're so different and so the same in areas. So it's fun.
Great.
It's fun to co-host a show with you, my friend.
Thank you.
Really? No, you two. Nothing?
I said thank you. No, you as well. You as well. What are you looking for? A pat in the back? Keep interrupting me all night, so what do you expect? No, I'm kidding.
Our next email comes from Adam, and he writes, "Please let me know your handle for the Star Wars trading card app. I've finally taken the dive. I'm only collecting white cards in some of the mini collections Legends line." Well, Adam, thank you. I'm sure you've heard us talk quite a bit about the Topps digital card app here, but mine, as we mentioned earlier in the show, mine is Danzy CWK.
Yep, and mine is Corey CWK.
So, yeah, trade away. And actually, Adam and I have done a couple of trades already. He and I emailed a little bit back and forth, and he's just getting rolling too. So I'm sure, Adam, you'd love to win the Topps contest.
That's right. That'd boost his
we've got
collection.
Going there.
Yeah.
Getting 1 million credits would certainly go a long way towards. I think you're going to get all the white cards and a heck of a lot more with 1 million credits. So, Adam and everybody else, best of luck, and let us know what you think about the trading card app, as well as what cards you'd like to see. From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to our question of the show, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coreec@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit us at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date at our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 41 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Full of Sith for joining us for our part 2 of our annual crossover, and for all they do for Star Wars and fandom. Be sure to check out Full of Sith on iTunes, leave them a review, and subscribe to their show. A huge thank you to Mediocre Jedi, Mike Audette, Neil Lowry, Dennis Keithley, Matt Moore, Leon Torres, and Eric Scrotch for the contributions to Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. We really appreciate it. And the winner of the coffee chat is Dennis Keithley. Congratulations, Dennis.
Thanks to Rob with the Bearded Trio, our media specialist Lisa, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, and to everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen to and email Coffee with Kenobi each and every week. Don't forget to send us your comments, questions, and opinions on a topic for show number 42, Star Wars and History.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for. I'd say you're in luck, but in my opinion, there's no such thing.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.